was just waiting to see if everything is working. You know how that goes. Happy Monday night, everybody. My name is Kathryn Kauffman, and I'm a psychic medium here in Lexington, Kentucky. Welcome to my every Monday night show. This is where we discover what and who we are in this journey called life. Happy Monday night. Hey to Arthea. I'm gonna have to look around all these devices to see the comments and stuff. I know was it last week or week before? The comments weren't working. So Susan wants to know how I'm doing. Well, it's been a rough ride. It has been a rough ride. So I have the back problem, still going to physical therapy for that. My DO tried to adjust my back and it was still too tight and stuck and he couldn't do it. So we got to keep working on it. Then I got a sinus infection, that stuff that was going around, everybody's had it. Took some Augmentin and had a bad reaction to that. And that's what I'm trying to get over at the present moment, is the reaction to the Augmentin. So it was pretty rough. And so I'm not back to eating like normal yet. And my energy's a little bit low, but you don't bounce back at 62 real easily like we used to, do we? No. So happy eclipse, everyone. Let us know in the comments if you got to watch the eclipse. It was too cloudy here where I was. I went out to try to watch the eclipse with David and couldn't get into the parking garage to park. So I tried to turn around and come back home, and it was so cloudy here at home that we couldn't see anything. The eclipse did peek out a little bit for David and his work partner, so they got to see a little bit of it, and they sent me some pictures. So I did want to go over opportunities for the eclipse really quick before we get into our content, because tonight is a really special time energetically for us to use the energy of this to make some big changes. So it's a significant energy that can really change your life path if you allow it to. So try to do a meditation tonight. This can actually bring in revelations that have been obscure from you in the past. Things that were hidden are going to be relevant and easily obtained through the consciousness if you do a meditation this evening. So what the energy of the eclipse does is it peels back the veil that was stuck on these revelations. And while you're meditating, another thing that the eclipse can help you do is look at the darker half of the self. And those are the things that really hold you back. And if this can be revealed to you, it's really going to help you move forward if you become aware of this in the meditation. So this is a new moon in Aries, which is a very spicy, aromatic type of energy. So that means that there's a lot of red energy with this type of eclipse and new moon. So you want to work with red candles, foods that are spicy, such as chilies, gemstones that are red, or solar in nature, meaning, like amber or yellow, solar in nature. So some of the ones that you might want to work with are carnelian, red tiger's eye, yellow tiger's eye, red jasper, red agate, citrine, yellow jasper, amber, fire quartz. It's a good time to wear gold or red colors that entrain to the solar or this kind of spicy red energy of Aries. and most of all, use energy and movement to get the most out of this energy, such as walking or hiking. Now, it's a little late in the evening for that, but you can certainly pick up some of that energy tomorrow morning. Let me see some of the comments here. Yes, everything got cool, Ina. I noticed that. Um, it was I guess the only way I knew that the eclipse was happening is because it got dark and cold. Otherwise, the clouds covered everything up. Okay, back to using this energy. It's a time today and tomorrow to make major decisions that alter your destiny. So pick up that spicy red energy of Aries and have some courage and go take the bull by the horns, so to speak. Take one big step towards a change in your life or life path. And today, a plan needs to be laid down if you're going to embrace a life change. A plan needs to be laid down so that you have some energetic scaffolding to move forward on. So, I hope everybody enjoyed the eclipse. I know I did. I mean, even though I did not get to see it, I sat out on the back porch and I enjoyed the energy of it, and it was so cool to see everything go dark and cold. And it reminded me that how dependent and really what solar beings we are, because without the sun, how rapidly life would cease to exist on our planet. I mean, it would go away pretty quick without that warmth and without the sun to make things grow so that, we could eat and provide sustenance for ourselves. So, anyway, just kind of reminded me of that. Now, the reason I did this show is I'm still working on this show for the Anunnaki. It's getting kind of in depth, and there are several shows that I'm working on that have been really in depth. And now that I'm partially retired, hopefully I'll have more time to work on those. And that is the Anunnaki, the Goblins of Kentucky, and ley lines. Those are my three major things that I'm trying to focus on and gathering information. And they're so complicated and in depth that usually my content, it only takes a couple of days to do the research and gather all the data, but these are taking a lot of time, which, they're in depth, and I guess they should. But it occurred to me the other day that, because I got a couple questions on this, of people who know about psychic vampires, but they didn't know how to identify them or what to look out for. And so I was thinking, okay, that makes sense. We should go over those things so that people know, how to identify a psychic vampire and then what to do when you encounter one. But it's really important that you know basically the anatomy of a psychic vampire so that you know how to isolate the characteristics of this type of person. Now, I want you to know that most people do not know that they're not aware that they are a psychic vampire. Okay? They have no idea. They just know that they need things and they want things, and they have no idea of the damage or the things that they're doing. They're not aware. So let's go over it. And if you have any questions, let me know. So Norel wants to know what exactly is a psychic vampire. That's what we're going to go over. A psychic vampire, Norel, is a person who draws energy from other people. They need the energy from another person, and They've actually done pictures of psychic vampires. Their energy field is very weak, and it shows damage when you do like Kirlian photography. And it shows like a person that they feed off of. Before they feed off of that person, the energy field is really bright and radiant, and then they take the picture of the person's energy field after the drain is done, and it shows holes in the auric field. So a psychic vampire basically draws energy from another person for their own gain. And we're going to look at the anatomy of that person, how they present. Hope this makes sense to you. So let's look at the first aspect, which is the mental outlook. Okay, so the mental outlook of a psychic vampire is usually defeatist. They can't solve problems. They only see other people as better. That person is better. That person has more money. That person has a luckier life than me. And they will always think of a reason why they can't solve their negative situations. Well, I don't have the money like that person does, or I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth like that person was. So they can't see to get beyond their own problems or to even begin to solve their own problems. And often you will see that they will have recurring problems of the same type come up over and over and over. Now, this type of person, hang on just a second, let me check for question. So Trisha says, I've always called that an energy vampire. My stepmother's one. Yes. A lot of people call them energy vampires, psychic vampires, psy-vamps. And I think there are a couple more terms for them, but they're basically all the same. So let's get back into these characteristics. They often will want to dump their problems on you, and it's always by talking to you or consulting you, okay? But the thing is, what they're doing is they're shuffling the energy towards your side of the fence. So they really want to talk, and they will not take any kind of suggestion on solutions, okay? You're going to notice that every solution that you give one of these type of people, they're going to find some reason on why it is wrong. Something is always found wrong with what you suggest. And they most often will say, well, I've already thought about that, but and this is why I can't do it. So they're really, really good at coming up with reasons why they can't solve the situation. Okay. Meanwhile, they're pushing their energy into your space, and then they disconnect, like hanging up, and they feel great. Meanwhile, you are feeling drained, tired, maybe even sick. And you just realize that talking to this person is such a drain. Okay. Now, physically, here's the characteristics of the person physically. There's always some kind, now this is an older person. Younger people we'll talk about in just a second, but there's always some kind of major physical dysfunction. And so what we're looking at are the major energy centers that are referenced in traditional Chinese medicine, like the liver, the heart, the pancreas, the lung, or the kidney. Those are the major systems that coordinate with wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And so they will always have some major physical dysfunction of one of these systems. Here's another thing about them physically is the doctors will never find the exact etiology of why their disorder is happening. They will always be undergoing tests or treatments with regard to the dysfunction, but the dysfunction is never conquered or fixed. It's always ongoing. Now, when you see a younger person who's a psychic vampire, what they're going to have before the major system goes down is many small issues or continual issues that keep progressing in life because of the way that they do with their energy. But then later on, it's going to develop into this major dysfunction of one of those organs. Let me check for questions. Okay, we're good. Now, here are the habits of an energy vampire, psychic vampire. They need and actively will seek out people that radiate positive energy, or people who are like people pleasers, empathic people, or people who help other people, people who are always upbeat or positive. Then they are drawn to these people like moths to a flame. And it's because they need the energy off of that person. And so once the association begins, it usually turns out parasitic. So just remember that, the people who have this disorder, this energy vampire type of situation, they have some kind of deficit in their energy, and their physical self is a manifestation of their deficit of energy that they need and have to have from another person who presents as a positive empathic force in the environment. So they will often target people pleasers, and they will have like a list of needs that only that person can fill. And it's going to be a dire list because the empathic person has to be enlisted, has to have some kind of emotional investment in that person to want to give that energy to. So here's another term, cheese suckers. So people who are cheese suckers draw the life force of others as a result of their own imbalances and neediness. Okay. Now, often the people who are the psychic vampires will think to themselves, if I could just call so-and-so and talk to them, I could feel better. Because they realize that there's an exchange of energy there. They realize that in talking, they're releasing some kind of energy and the other person is taking it on. So the victims now, okay, so let's go back to when they first are looking for a person to draw energy from, they will use very crafty situations to draw that person in, like manipulation, often flattery, and empaths really fall down when it comes to flattery or charm to gain our cooperation. And we don't have a lot of defense mechanisms against flattery and cooperation. I'm trying to see these comments. So Ina says, I have a friend and former coworker that I've had to stop seeing because of so many of her personal problems. I've come to believe she's mentally ill, but seeing her always left me mentally and physically exhausted. Same thing. Yes, absolutely. Most likely that person is a psychic vampire or a cheese sucker. And if you are interested in more information about this, we could go a step further. There is psychic vampires that actually poison their victims, and those are called soul suckers. And I have another video about the difference between soul suckers and psychic vampires, but the reason I wanted to do the show tonight was so that you guys could recognize the tendencies and the characteristics of a psychic vampire so that you could stay clear of them. So Tracy says, is this something one can grow out of or perhaps change once they become awakened, or will they always be this way? Okay, so if they are aware that they're doing it, so when you say when they become awakened, I'm assuming that if they become aware of the fact that they're doing it, yes, they can change that, because you definitely can change your energy field, you can change your thoughts, and you can change your behaviorisms. And so a person who's fallen into this trap of being a psi vampire can definitely change this, but it's like you said, Tracy, you have to become aware that this is what you are about and this is what you are doing, and then you have to take active steps not to do that. Because I would say if most people who are psychic vampires knew that they were hurting other people by doing this, they would change things. But it's a state of ignorance too. Now, the people who are chi suckers, they're drawing the life force of another person. And so what happens to the victim, and this happens over time, is the victim will display similar illnesses or problems of the same organ that the psi vampire has issues with. So if you're dealing with a psi vampire that has ongoing kidney issues and they feed off of you continually, and you don't even have to be in the same room for them to feed off of you. They can feed off of you by thoughts of hate about you and just an energetic connection with you. You don't have to participate in a conversation with them for them to draw energy off of you. But the people who are their victims will often have the same or similar illnesses. So if you're dealing with somebody who, say, is a psychic vampire with kidney issues, then you may start to exhibit like frequent kidney problems, kidney infections. You know, you may develop polycystic kidney type of symptoms, or you may develop a heart issue if you're dealing with a psychic vampire that has a heart problem and ongoing heart issues. So it's a similar organ type of association that you're going to see in the victim. So let's talk about how we can prevent this. So Mitzi wants to know, what about someone who constantly wants to put down people? Yes, that's absolutely 100%. And if you think about, think about this, Mitzi. Somebody who constantly puts someone else down is trying to elevate themselves, which means that their original internal energy is below, and they're trying their best to come above or increase. And so putting everybody else down makes them feel like they've gotten above the other person. And that's a form of psychic vampirism. Absolutely. So Mitzi says, thinks no one knows what they're doing, always telling you what you're doing wrong. Yep, exactly. That's exactly correct. So here's what you need to do. When you talk to that person, even before you answer the phone, you put up a mental block immediately. Don't pay attention to what they're saying, because they're simply regurgitating energy in your direction. It's garbage. It's all garbage. If you can, look at something on TV and pay attention to that instead of what they're saying, especially if you're on the phone. If you're in person, you're going to have to daydream to pull your consciousness away from that person. But mental blocks are imperative. Do not feed into the conversation, which means that you don't make suggestions anymore. You don't tell them any solutions anymore. And it may boil down to just saying, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. That may be the most that the conversation ends up being. Definitely, if you're in person, you may have to have some boundaries that you establish with them. That could be distasteful, but it's needed, and it's needed for the health of your body and your mind. Now, when you stop feeding into the conversation and you stop making suggestions and you stop being engaged with that person, eventually they will seek out someone else. And they'll slowly stop calling you because they're not getting the release that they used to get from the conversations, because the way that it used to go, when they call, you fed into the conversation, you were engaged with the conversation, and maybe you made suggestions. And so they got to shove all their emotional garbage onto your side of the fence. And then when they hung up, they were like, gosh, I feel so much better after talking to her. And you're like going, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to die because she's just sucked every last drop of energy out of me. So, it works really well if you can just watch something on TV and sort of put the engagement there and put a minimal amount of response into the conversation. And they will get the idea that they're not getting the release that they need from the conversation, and then they'll slowly search out and seek out someone else to draw energy from. So let's remember the tendencies of somebody like this: extremely negative, defeatist, can never solve their own problems. Any suggestions falls on a deaf ear. They're not going to do anything that you suggest. Always sick, may have a major health problem that the doctors can't fix. Okay? Nothing is going to fix what they have. And so any test that's done or any treatment that goes on at the doctor's office is always going to fail. Always going to fail. Okay? It's never going to work with these people. And then too, notice your energy. Be aware of how you feel after you interact with them. Do you feel drained? Do you feel wasted? So be really aware of your energy and how it feels. So Melissa says, have met psychic vampires, detached from them, but amazed how much control they have on other people. Yes. 3 were family members. Oh, yes, Melissa, you are so right. And like I said, they totally don't understand what they're doing. So Tracy says, tell me if you agree. I think some of them actually don't know what they're doing. Yes, that's exactly what we were saying at the beginning of the show. And if they knew, they would want to change. I would say probably 80 to 90%, if they knew what they were doing, definitely would want to change. But yes, you're right. There are those that are stuck and will never change. Compassion helps. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I will try to, I tell you what, next week I'll try to get these screen's a little bit better, so I don't have to lean off of the screen to look at the comments over here. Maybe I'll move everything to that side of the screen, and maybe that'll be better. So I am working on the show for the Anunnaki, and hopefully I can have it done by Monday, next Monday. I hope you guys had a fabulous eclipse day. Let's see, Heather says, I've had a few friends that were psychic vampires. I called them negative and narcissistic, who drained me, so I had to let them go from my mental health. Yes, and that's where the boundaries come in definitely handy. And so I insist for me to take care of myself. I'm trying my best, girl. I'm trying my best. I've had a streak of bad luck here lately, but hopefully this spring will get better. My beans that I put out in the garden, I know some people ask me about the garden, and I have to tell you about it because those are my babies. So I would say most of the beans died that I had up and going, but I had extra bean seed, so I put out extra bean seed. And oh, let's see, what is this? Okay, Michelle, you are a troll, so I'm going to delete your comment. Sorry about that. Oh, here we go, here we go. So it's just me monitoring my shows, and so Michelle Knight is a troll. Sorry for you guys. She's grabbing all your comments and trying to get a reading off of you. So I'm gonna go through and delete these so you don't have to see them. Sorry about that. And then too, yeah, Miss Michelle is hitting everybody on the feed. And so those of you that she's targeting, if you want to say something nasty, I'll feel free. I'm down with it. It's so rude. It's so crude and rude, and it's just plain old tacky, you know? Just plain tacky. If you need money that bad, get a real job. You know? Okay. All right. All right, you guys. I'm going to hop off here and get to some dinner with David. Kisses from Kentucky, and I will see you next week. Y'all have a good one. Let me get some of these.